Coming up on Vegas Nation Blitz, another walk-off win in overtime.
Ball game! Bye-bye, Josh! 86 yards in overtime to walk it off for a second straight week.
And a record-breaking day for the star running back. We'll discuss the Raiders' first win streak of the season right now on Vegas Nation Blitz.
Powered by the Las Vegas Review-Journal, this is Vegas Nation Blitz. Presented by D&R House of Diamonds, making luxury affordable. Located in the One Summerlin building in downtown Summerlin.
Welcome into Vegas Nation Blitz. I'm your host, Cassie Soto. The Raiders secured their first win in Seattle since 1998 with an 86-yard walk-off touchdown from Josh Jacobs in overtime. The running back eclipsed 300 total yards from scrimmage, a new franchise record for most scrimmage yards in a game. His 229 rushing yards also broke the franchise record for most rushing yards in a game, a record held by Napoleon Kaufman for 25 years when he rushed for 227 versus the Broncos in 1997. So much to get to here, so let's kick things off with our top stories brought to you by Capriotti's. Make your game day extraordinary with Capriotti's. Order now. Raiders beat writer Vinny Bonsignore joining me now. Vinny, before we get to the man of the hour in Josh Jacobs, let's go ahead and start with the resiliency of this Raiders team. Starting with an opening drive interception to be able to come back and win this one in overtime. Are we seeing that shift in the locker room? This team, I think, is looking a lot different than it was just a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, and it's amazing what a difference it makes when you make plays to win these close games, which were always there and available to the Raiders earlier in the year. They just weren't making them. So I don't necessarily think there's been this big shift or change in the locker room. I never sense that they were down on themselves or weren't buying into the system and all that stuff. They just weren't making plays when they needed to make them, and that was extremely frustrating to them. In the locker room. That was what I always sensed more than anything else, was frustration. Like, geez, just make the play and they'll be all right, and yet not doing it and, have to answer and say the same things week after week after week. Well, they're now making those plays, and it's amazing how the narrative changes when you do just those simple things. As this league, and we've talked about this, has been going this year, a lot of games are coming down to basically last possessions and those types of scores. So if the trend continues and the Raiders keep finding themselves in close games, the best way to handle those situations is to make the plays when they need to be made. And if they do, they're going to win some more games this year.
Well, let's get to the MVP of this one now, Vinny. Josh Jacobs, of course, with 303 total scrimmage yards, a single-game franchise record. And the team wasn't even sure if he was going to play on Sunday. Vinny, he was questionable heading into this one. But once again, Josh Jacobs showing just how much he means to this team.
Yeah, without question. And he's been all that this year in a major way from in every way. His presence in the locker room, his work ethic, which I think leads other players to follow suit. What he does on Sunday, his willingness to play through pain, which he was that was a legit injury, and it still is. They got to monitor that thing. Making himself a better player in terms of catching the ball. We saw a couple of nice catch and runs for him on Sunday, and obviously the tough running, the physicality that he brings to the game. But I do want to mention this. I've watched the 86-yard touchdown run probably 20 times by now. And that is literally a case study in just do your job. 11 players doing their job. If even one guy didn't do his job on that play, that run goes anywhere from no gain to 8 yards or so. If just one guy, any particular guy, just didn't get his job done on that play. But everybody did do their job. And what's typically, about a 6 or 7 yard gain on a 10-yard gain on a good run turned into an 86-yard touchdown. It's literally what teams talk about when they say, just focus on your job and do it. And if you do, good things can happen. And it turned out to be an 86-yard walk-off touchdown.
Well, with great performance after great performance, Vinny, what are the chances that the Raiders could give Josh Jacobs an in-season extension? You just said it there, how much he means to this team, to this locker room, to this fan base. Can the Raiders really afford to lose Josh Jacobs? And just sort of what do you think that process looks like here moving forward and then, of course, towards the end of the season?
Yeah, not sure about an in-season at this point. You got to look at how it affects your books and all that kind of stuff. But I'm with you in terms of suggesting you can't lose Josh Jacobs. And this is one of those ones to me where look, certain leadership groups have their philosophies and numbers that they have in mind for certain positions and players and whatnot. And maybe Dave Ziegler and Josh McDaniels had an idea of, what they want to allot to the running back position. But I would think if you're the owner of this team, knowing how this is a homegrown player that loves being here, he's everything that you're looking for in terms of a leader, does the right thing pretty much all the time from a practice standpoint, out in the community, the locker room, on the field, practice, studying, all those types of things that you're literally saying, this is what we want to build this organization on. This is what we want to hang our hat on. You're literally saying that. Here's a player that embodies everything that you're talking about. How do you let a guy like that means so much to your team and your fan base just walk out the door? I don't see that you can allow that to happen. And if I was the owner of the team, I'd make sure that, hey, I understand that maybe you guys have your way of looking at that running back position, and I get it. Most times I'm going to always defer to you. But in this one, I don't want that player to walk out the door. So figure it out.
Around the League, presented by South Point Sportsbook. Download the app at southpointsports.com. Hey everybody, it's Heidi Fang here, and I'm joined with our NFL and Raiders writer, Adam Hill. Time to take a look at some key matchups happening here in Week 13 of the NFL season. So one of the ones I want to look at is the matchup between the Miami Dolphins and the 49ers, who may be without Christian McCaffrey, a big cog in the wheel for the 49ers, Adam.
Yeah, it sounds like they're going to try to have McCaffrey play through the knee irritation, but certainly the focus for the 49ers is on the postseason and making sure he's healthy, especially because they traded away most of his backups, and then the one that remains is out. So, without Elijah Mitchell out there, it's going to be really tough for them to kind of move forward. They got a couple of rookies, on the practice squad that they can maybe rely on, but for now, it's Christian McCaffrey's backfield to himself if he's healthy, and it sounds like he's not going to be fully healthy, but he will try to play through this, and he'll see his backups on the other side of the field. Jeff Wilson, Raheem Mostert, both with the Dolphins now, and a lot of reunions here. Mike McDaniel has been the offensive coordinator with San Francisco, now with Miami, going back to play against the 49ers. So a lot of reunions, a lot of familiar faces, and everybody knows what everybody wants to do in this game. It's just a matter of who can execute it better.
Speaking of familiar type matchups, you have the Cincinnati Bengals, Kansas City Chiefs. This one has some history to it, Adam. What do you make about this Sunday matchup?
The Chiefs certainly have some revenge on their mind after losing last year to the Bengals in the AFC Championship game, and the Bengals going on to the Super Bowl that the Chiefs felt that they were rightfully deserving of being in. That was a second half collapse. The Chiefs obviously coming off such an emotional win last year against the Bills. They went into the Bengals game, looked like they had control of it and let it slip away. Maybe some mental fatigue a little bit there. I don't think that happens again. I think they want to send a message in this one. So the Bengals really fighting their way back from a slow start in the season, trying to get back to where they were last year. The Chiefs cruising right along this season. So two teams that are really kind of playing really good football right now. But, I think that they're really trying to peak in just a couple of weeks in the postseason.
Sam Gordon back with the Week 13 edition of the Vegas Nation Injury Brief. And all eyes this week on running back Josh Jacobs. That's right, the NFL's leading rusher dealing with a calf injury, but he was a limited participant in practice on Wednesday. All signs indicate that he wants to go, is going to push to go on Sunday against the Chargers. And of course, the Raiders would be best suited to have him in the backfield, the NFL's leading rusher and leading the league in yards from scrimmage as well. Other than that, a relatively clean bill of health for the Raiders. Defensive tackle Andrew Billings limited Wednesday with a fibula. Tackle Colton Miller limited with a shoulder. Defensive tackle Kendall Vickers limited with a back. Tight end Jesper Horsted did not participate with a concussion, and linebacker Darian Butler and quarterback Derek Carr were full participants, as well as safety Deron Harmon, but they were all listed with injury designations. Butler with an elbow, Carr with a back, and Harmon with a shoulder. You can check back on VegasNation.com for more updates on Josh Jacobs and the Raiders' bill of health as they prepare for a crucial Week 13 matchup against the rival Chargers at Allegiant Stadium. I'm Sam Gordon, and this is the Weekly Injury Brief.
D&R House of Diamonds is Las Vegas's elite private office jeweler, the perfect bridge between internet pricing and a traditional brick-and-mortar jewelry store. We specialize in loose diamonds, natural and lab-grown, engagement rings, fashion jewelry, custom design, and jewelry repairs. We operate by appointment in our beautiful offices in the One Summerlin building, downtown Summerlin. Our great relationships with the world's largest diamond wholesalers and our low overhead saves you hundreds, if not thousands, on your purchase.
With Capriotti's, game day is always extraordinary. Fuel your passion with our award-winning cheesesteaks, in-house oven-roasted turkey, and classic subs. Or create a fan frenzy with our catering trays that are perfect for any crew. At Capriotti's, we deliver extraordinary to you.
Now let's take a look at some Raiders social media. 2 in a row for the Raiders, a big win in Seattle in overtime thanks to Josh Jacobs, who has undeniably been the MVP of this season for the Silver and Black. Jacobs is him, and the NFL agrees, making him the bio and header on the Twitter account. Maxstradamus Mac Hollins once again predicting a touchdown play, and Tim Brown showing love to both Jacobs and Max Crosby, who were instrumental in getting that late dub. The Raiders beat the 12th man and 12 men on the field. During an interception return, Seahawks linebacker Darrell Taylor running onto the field while the play was still alive and becoming an extra blocker on the return. The refs not calling it at all. And Darren Waller is on injured reserve, but is still honoring the Wounded Warrior Project for My Cause, My Cleats. The Cleats will also honor his cousin Mary Griffin, who served in the Army for 20 years.
Cassie Soto back with you, and I am joined by Las Vegas Review-Journal sports columnist Ed Graney. Ed, let's go ahead and start with the Raiders defense. We know Max Crosby is the anchor of this D, but other guys stepped up. You've got Denzel Perryman, Deron Harmon, heck, even Chandler Jones finally showed up with a fumble recovery. Are we finally seeing this defense figure it out and come together?
Well, I think week to week with Patrick Graham's scheme, I think they're getting better. Obviously, as you get on and you gain more experience with the scheme, you're supposed to get better. I was shocked and surprised and fell off my chair when I did hear Chandler Jones' name in the press box the other day for making a play, but he actually made the play. He had the fumble recovery. But in all seriousness, look, Max has had a terrific year. He's going to be in contention for Defensive Player of the Year in the entire NFL. I think he's been amazing. But you're right, Cassie. Other guys are now coming along in this Patrick Graham situation, and they weren't great again. They're not a great defense, but they got the stop when they needed it most in overtime. They had to get that stop to get the ball back to the offense. They did it, and when you win a game in overtime like they did, and that defense got you the ball back, they did what they needed to do, and they did their job.
Well, I know you were there in Seattle, Ed, so you can speak to this. How much credit are you giving these guys for overcoming the emotion and the just hostile environment that they faced there in Seattle? The TV broadcast could not stop showing the decibel levels and how loud it was in Lumen Field.
Yeah, it's one of the best atmospheres, if not the best, that in Kansas City in the NFL with the 12th man there in Seattle. Thank goodness the press box is closed because we could not hear ourselves think or talk if it was open because it is so loud there. It's deafening. So, yeah, I think especially in overtime, when you get that loud and you're supposed to make a play. Now, Josh Jacobs goes 86 yards in one play off the handoff. But if you're trying to get to overtime, if you're trying to make plays like that last drive where he hit Foster Moreau, Derek hit Foster Moreau for the touchdown, that's a huge deal when you can overcome that noise. So for them, kudos to them for doing it. A lot of people can't go in there and overcome that kind of atmosphere because, like I said, other than Kansas City, it's probably the loudest in the NFL, and I think they would tell you they're the loudest with that 12th man.
Well, the Raiders will be back at home this week, hopefully in a little bit better environment, Ed, here at Allegiant Stadium. They'll be hosting AFC West rival Chargers, of course. As crazy as a season as it has been for the Raiders, they're only 2 games back from the Chargers, 2 games out of that second place spot in the AFC West division. How huge and how likely could a Raiders win be on Sunday?
Well, it'd be big. It'd get them to 5-7. And, a couple weeks ago, what were they with 2-7? It's just, they're still a long way away. That's why I think they've done a good job taking it week to week. Even with the 2 overtime wins, you had to get to overtime to win them both. When you're 2-7, you can't look farther ahead than 1 week. They haven't done that yet. So this is just another week. If you heard Josh McDaniels after the game in the locker room when they were celebrating, he made it a point to tell them, look, this is a divisional game at home. You have to you have to protect your home turf. This is a really, really important game. Yeah, it only gets them to 5-7. But I'll tell you what, we saw last year what happened when they got on a little winning streak, right? When they beat Cleveland and they won 4 straight. You just never know what's going to happen. You just got to take it 1 week at a time. The NFL's a weird league. Anything can happen week to week. And if they get this win, they go 5-7. What do? They have a short week to go to the Rams, and they go to that one. So this would be huge now in terms of getting the win in a division game and continuing kind of this, this winning streak going forward.
Thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode of Vegas Nation Blitz. For more Raiders news and updates, you can always head on over to vegasnation.com, and please be sure to watch Vegas Nation Game Day airing on Saturday morning. The Raiders will be back at home to host the Los Angeles Chargers. For our entire Vegas Nation crew, I'm Cassie Soto. Have a great week.
Powered by the Las Vegas Review-Journal, this is Vegas Nation Blitz. Presented by D&R House of Diamonds, making luxury affordable. Located in the One Summerlin building in downtown Summerlin.